Hi, welcome back to the Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit, Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Keep in mind that I am asking you to make a structure chart for this section of the Gemara, but definitely check out my written instructions for more details on that. Amar Rav from Bar Papa, Amar Rav Chisda. Kol shehu mishum avel, kegon tisha b'av ve'avel, asur ben b'chamin ben b'tzoneh. Any day that is being observed out of a sense of avelut, out of a sense of mourning, like Tisha B'Av or avelut itself, one is forbidden to bathe, whether in hot water or in cold water. Kol shehu mishum ta'anug, kegon ta'anit tzibor, bechamin asur b'tzonen mutar. Any day that's being observed as a day when you're not supposed to have ta'anug, when you're not supposed to have sort of enjoyment, like a ta'anit tzibor, like a communal fast, then you are not permitted to bathe in warm water, but you are permitted to bathe in cold water. And keep in mind that the Mishnah dealt with a case of a ta'anit tzibor. Amar Rav Idi bar Avin, Af ana nami tanina. We also taught this in our Mishnah, v'noalin et hamerchatzaot, because it says in the Mishnah that we lock the bathhouses. The bathhouses would be a place with warm water, and the case in question is ta'anit tzibor, so it's asur mishum ta'anug, so it makes sense, according to Rav Chisda's opinion, to say that that we lock the bathhouses. Amar le Abaye, v'i b'tzonen asur, sochrin et hanaharot mibayei lemitnei. Abaye says, wait, so if the Mishnah wanted to tell us that you also were forbidden to bathe in cold water on those days, would it say that we lock up the rivers? No, clearly not, because you don't lock rivers. So the implication being, your proof is silly. The fact that it says that we lock the bathhouses doesn't actually teach that we only can't bathe in warm water on those days. It just is the fact that those are the only things that one can actually lock. Amar Rav Shesha Berezer Rav Idi. Rav Shesha Berezer Rav Idi said, note that he is Rav Idi's son, so he's coming in to defend his father. Abba hachakashale. Here's what my father was. Here's the problem my father was pointing to. Michti tznan asur berachitza noalin et hamerchatzaot lamale. Since it says asur berachitza, that you're not allowed to bathe, to wash yourself on these days, noalin et hamerchatzaot lamale. Why do I need to say that you lock the bathhouses? Ela lav shma mina b'chamin asur b'tzonen mutar. Doesn't this come to teach us? Isn't that the case that this comes to teach us that you're not allowed to bathe in warm water on those days and you are allowed to bathe in cold water on those days? In other words, it's not the fact that it simply says to lock the bathhouses, because that you could just say, well, there was no point in saying that we lock the rivers. But the fact that it repeats itself, it says we don't bathe and that you lock the bathhouses, that's what comes to teach us that chamin is asur and tzonen is mutar. Lema Messiah. Let's say that we have another source, a braita, that supports this idea. Kol chayvei tefilot tovlin kederkan. Anyone who is obligated to immerse in a mikveh immerses as usual. Bein b'tisha b'av, bein b'yom ha'kippurim. Whether on Tisha B'Av or on Yom Kippur. B'mai, in what do they immerse? I'm putting this in red because it's a Tanaitic source. In what do they immerse? Ilema b'chamin, tefila b'chamin mi'ika. If you want to say that they're allowed to immerse in warm water, whoever heard of such a thing as immersing in warm water? She'uvin ninhu. That would be water that's drawn, water that is not in a body of living water anymore, and therefore it's not allowed to be immersed in. Elalav b'tzonen. Rather, it must be that the water that you're allowed to immerse in on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur is cold water. V'chayavei tefilot in shachrina lo. And what the source is coming to teach us is that only those who are obligated to immerse on that day are allowed to go in even the cold water, but others are not allowed to go in the cold water. So even if they're in avelut, they're not allowed to go in hot or cold water, and that would support Rav Chisda's point, Rav Chisda's original point. Amar Rav Chana bar Katina, Lo nitzracha el chametz feria. Rav Chama bar Katina says, no, it doesn't necessarily teach you that. It could be that this source is just talking about Chamei Tveria, the hot springs of Tveria, and telling you that you would be allowed to immerse on those days, right? Kol chayvei tefilot tovlin kedarkan means they can immerse in whatever they would immerse in, and if that's the warm water of Tveria, then that's fine, even on Tisha B'Av. So it's a special exception for chayvei tefillah and doesn't tell us anything about other people immersing in hot or cold water. Ihachi ema seifa, but we challenge that idea because if so, I will tell you the end of that source. Right? I'll say the end of that source. Amar Rabbi Chanina Sgan HaKohanim, Kedai hu beit Eloheinu la'aved alav tefillah pam achat b'shana. The house of our God, the Beit HaMikdash, it's like worthy enough that you could skip tefillah once a year. Meaning, this source is saying, maybe actually we should push off immersion on Tisha B'Av and not allow it. Via mar patzonen mutar, yerchatz patzonen. But if you thought that cold was actually permissible on those days, then let him wash in cold water, right? Then there'd be no need to push it off. So this ending implies that actually maybe Rav Chisda is right, and you're not allowed to dip even in cold water on Tisha B'Av. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, no, be'atra delo shachiach tzonen. That source was just talking about a place where cold water, there is no cold water to dunk in. And that's why you have to delay tefillah rather than dunk in warm water. And so this doesn't teach us anything necessarily about dunking or not dunking in cold water. And so Rav Chisda's statement is sort of allowed to stand. It was neither fully proven nor fully disproven. Tashma, so here's another proof, here's another attempt. Kisha amru asur b'melacha, lo amru ela b'yom, aval b'layla mutar. When they said that you are not allowed to do melacha on a fast day, they didn't say this except during the day. But at night, like at the night of a fast day, you're allowed to do melacha. So this is a source that says that you're not allowed to do melacha apparently on a fast day, but you are allowed to do it at night. And when they said that you're not allowed to wear leather shoes, that's only in the city. But when you're like walking on the way between cities, you're allowed to. HaKetzad, how does this work? Yotzel derech Noel. When you go out on your journey, you put on your shoes. Nichnas ha'ir cholat. When you go into the city, you take them off. Ukishamru asor b'rechitza. And when they said that washing is prohibited, lo amru ela kol gufo. They were only talking about washing your whole body. Aval panav yadav raglav mutar. But you're allowed to wash your face, hands, and feet. V'chen atam otzeh b'menuzeh u'ba'avel. And so too you find with someone who's been excommunicated and with someone who's an avelut, meaning all these rules about a fast day apparently apply to an excommunicated person and a person in mourning as well. My lava chulhu, doesn't this apply to all of them? Meaning this idea that it's the same for someone who's in mourning, that's talking about all the things, right? The shoes and the washing and the malacha and everything. Uvemayas kinan, and what situation are we dealing with? Ilema bechamin, if you want to say that we're talking about warm water, panav yadav raglav misharu. Who would allow him to wash even that amount of his body in warm water? V'ha'amar Rav Sheshet, but didn't Rav Sheshet say, Avel asur lehoshit etzba'o bechamin. A person in mourning is forbidden to even put their little finger into warm water. Elalav b'tzonen. No, so we must be talking about cold water actually, which goes against Rav Chisda, right? Saying that you're only allowed, again, Rav Chisda is saying that an avel can't wash themselves even in cold water, and this seems to be implying that you could wash yourself in at least your hands, face, and feet in cold water if you're an avel. But then we reject that. Lo lam b'chamin. Nope. For sure that source is talking about warm water. v'tika kashalach, and it's a case where the v'tika kashalach v'chen atamot b'menudeh u'ba'avel asharakai. And the part that you were asking about, is this part, that, so too you find with an excommunicated person and a person in Avelut, Asharakai. That's only talking about the rest of the cases. So when it says, we apply these rules to someone who is excommunicated or someone who's in mourning, that's only talking about the shoes and the malacha, but it's not talking about the washing. The washing, Rav Chisda would be right that there's this additional restriction. Tashma. So here's another attempt to prove, to figure out whether Rav Chisda is right or not. Ta'amar Rabbi Abba HaKohen, Mishum Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, Ma'aseh v'metu banav shel Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Chanina, v'rachatz b'tzonen kol shiva. The sons of Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Chanina died, and he washed himself in cold water all 7 days, which, of course, would seem to contradict the position of Rav Chisda that you can't wash in cold water when you're in Avel. But the Gemara says, no, that's not a good proof against Rav Chisda. Hatam kishitachfuhu avelav. That's when, literally, he's been overtaken by his mourning. In that case, he had, one period of mourning after another. So they took pity on him, or it's one thing to go 7 days without washing, it's another thing to go weeks and weeks, so they let him wash. Hava is part of that sentence. Titania, as we learned in the Braita, Tachfu avalav zeh achar zeh, hichbid sa'aro mekel b'tar, u'mechabes ksuto b'mayim. Because we learned that if you have this state of avelut, God forbid, one after the other, so if his hair gets too heavy for him, he can shave it with a razor, and he can wash his clothing in water. Amar Rav Chisda, and Rav Chisda said about this Braita, Betar avalo b'misparayim. You can use a razor but not scissors, meaning it's still a haircut that's not in the usual way. B'mayim v'lo b'neter v'lo b'chol. And you can wash your clothing in water, but not with soap and not with sand, which apparently would be the two more standard ways of washing clothing. Rav Chisda wouldn't let you do that in those situations, or he's pointing to the fact that this Braita doesn't allow you to do those things, but does allow you to at least make the extended mourning period tolerable. Okay, we'll stop there.